Tech Chat Tuesdays. I am Manisha Joshi, and I am here with the founder and owner, Earl Kelly, with EK3 Technologies. Today we are going to be talking about apps. You've always heard that famous line, sure, there's an app for that. Or you've always heard friends talking about, you haven't downloaded that app? Well, what about that app? The scary things about apps, though, are that a lot of times when you download them, it might say it's going to be taking over your phone. So Earl, my big question for you is, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of apps out there that seemingly are supposed to make your life easier. But what's scary to me, and those that I talk to, is that when you go to download it, that big question comes across your phone. Are you going to let it allow access to your media, your phone, your emails, your contacts? Is that safe?
Depends on the app.
Okay.
So if I'm using an app from, say, Delta or some sort of large company, there are certain things I won't let them have access to. So, for instance, if I'm going to be talking to Delta about trips that I'm taking, why do you need access then to my photos, right? Obviously, you need access to my GPS because you want to know, or my location services because you want to know where I'm at. But you don't really need access to all of my music files or all of my photos. So I'm very cautious about what I let apps have access to. There are lots of different apps that will want access to all kinds of things. And so you should be able to control the granularity of what apps have access to.
Okay.
Most apps today will allow that. If you're an Android user, you need to be very particular about what the app is, who it came from, and what permissions that it wants. If you're an Apple user, you need to be the same.
Okay.
But Apple is actually cracking down on what information you can have. As a matter of fact, right now, Facebook and Apple are in a little bit of a kerfuffle over whether or not Facebook will be allowed to see where you went, where your history of where you've been, and because they use that information and they send that information to their advertisers, and that's how they make money.
Okay.
If an app is free, normally it means it's getting information. Nothing is free. There's always a price.
Okay.
So apps that are free are collecting information and they're sending it somewhere else.
Even when it seemingly thinks that do you agree to their disclosure or their agreement, you're hoping somewhere in there it might mean we will not share your information with anyone else, but that's not always the case, it sounds like.
It's not always the case, and even if they might share their information with that particular company, that particular company might still be using that information with their advertisers.
Okay.
A perfect example of that are restaurant apps. Every restaurant wants you to have their app.
Yes.
But the reason they want you to have their app is because they want to see how many times a month you go to their restaurant, or how many times a year you go to the restaurant, or if you live close to their restaurant, or how many app users are within a certain distance of a certain restaurant, so do we need to close that restaurant down? This is all information that is so valuable. So you want people to have your app. In general, businesses don't want you to have their app because it's easier. They do and they don't.
Okay, interesting.
Restaurant apps, yes, at times, because obviously you can order stuff online, but they will say, okay, download our app and there's a loyalty program. Absolutely. Download the app, there's a loyalty program. There's a cost for that. It's not a tangible cost, it's your data cost. And so they're using your data to go wherever, to track whatever they want to track.
Wow, okay.
I happen to be a big proponent of not downloading apps. I'm very anti-app. I will go to your website and do whatever I can do on your website.
Okay.
Because on your website, I'm not being tracked. I'm not being location. Especially if you have a Google phone, an Android phone, because Android actually gives that information to each different app. Okay. And they haven't yet. There is a location services, but a lot of times that information just is there by default.
Right. That's what I worry about as well, because, and especially having kids, they're like, Mom, how come you don't have this app? And a lot of times they'll download it without me knowing, and suddenly I look at my phone and I've got 5 new gaming apps that my son wants to, play while we're in the car and things like that. And also it seems to just suck so much memory, because a lot of times my phone will say, well, you can't take any more videos, you're out of memory. So are these apps truly shutting down our phones in the sense, are they slowing it down? Is it, almost like sludge
So
for a cell phone?
Your phone has two types of memory, just like
Okay.
your computer does. The difference is your phone is going to use its storage memory for apps and their
Okay.
data. So an app can be huge. Facebook, for one, is a huge... I don't know why I went like this. Let's try that again. Facebook, for one, is a small app when you download it, but it's constantly downloading information and it's taking up space on your computer. On your phone.
Okay.
So the more apps that you have, yes, the more data is stored on your phone,
Okay.
the more space that takes up. Okay.
Okay.
So sometimes, however, when it says my phone's out of memory, it's talking about processing memory.
Okay.
So if you have too many apps running at one time, that can slow down your phone greatly.
Okay.
Because just like your computer, your phone has a processor and it can only do so much.
Okay.
So if you have a lot of different apps and a lot of different notifications, that is completely slowing down your phone, and you'll actually get poor performance from your phone.
Very interesting. See, this is something I'm sure, I know I didn't know, and a lot of you viewers didn't know as well. The other thing too is that are there specific companies that are more legitimate than others to download apps from? For example, as an Android user, I myself always go to the Google store for apps. However, I assume that Google might have done its screening and all of the apps that they offer are legitimate. Is that too naive of me? Are there certain companies I should look for?
So the Google Play Store is almost a wild west, if you will, of
Okay.
different apps. One of the things that you'll find with the difference between Google and Apple, and there's some other different stores,
Okay.
right?
Right.
If you have Windows 10 or Windows 11, there's the Microsoft Store, and you can download apps from that, and they're calling programs that we've used for years, Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, they're calling those apps now as well. But I'm going to talk in generalities of the Google Play and the Apple iOS Store. So the Apple iOS Store, you have to, before you can get an app on their store,
Okay.
it literally has to be blessed by Apple. There's a cost involved.
Okay.
There is some work that has to be done. You have to prove to Apple that it's worthwhile to be on their store.
Okay.
That's also one of the reasons you'll find that there's very few free apps on the Apple Store.
Yeah.
Okay, because it costs a lot of money to get your app on the Apple Store.
Okay.
And a lot of people will use that as, I should trust this app because
Right.
it did get Apple's blessing.
Okay.
That's not always the case. There have been several different apps that did horrible stuff once the app was installed on your computer, but they got it past Apple's censors.
Okay.
Google Store, on the other hand, is if you can sign up for an account, you can get it on the Google Store.
Okay.
So, again, it's freer.
Okay.
It's more of a, I don't want to use the word Wild West, okay, but it's almost what we call open source. So there's a lot more ideas and a lot more thoughts and a lot more options when it
Okay.
comes to the Google Store, because the options in the Google Store are unlimited on what you can think of you can write an app for.
Wow.
The problem with that is you do need to be careful. So when I personally have an Android phone, and I do stick to apps. First of all, I'm very particular about apps that I will install on my phone, and I do stick to apps that are from big name brand companies.
Okay.
I try not to download an app that would be from somebody else because I don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Now, it is getting better out there for Android users in that the security is more granular. So your Android
Okay.
phone will now ask you, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do
Right.
that? Are you sure? Apple phone, not so much. Apple
Okay.
thinks they know what you want, and so they'll just let it install.
Okay.
And so, there's good and bad in both situations.
Okay. This is really helpful to know. As you know, we are in an app-controlled world these days, and it's hard to decipher which is right, which is wrong. But you can always rely on Earl for any of your questions. Earl, what is the best way to reach you?
you can contact us on our sales email at sales@ek3tech.com. That's sales@ek3tech.com. Or you can call us at 904-337-1610.
We hope that everyone had something to learn today and will be checking out their phones, cleaning out their apps, and downloading safe ones. Till next time, we hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you next time on Tech Chat Tuesdays. Thank you, Earl.
Absolutely.